Hey, Blake T. Wilde here, and welcome to Cover Comics, a new series where I just take comic books that I love, put them under this camera right here, and just talk about them ad nauseum, analyze them, discuss them, go into what sort of subtext there may or may not be, you know, that whole shindig rigmarole. And I know what you're thinking. Blake, you're not a professional in the industry who has 20 plus years of experience like some other people might. Well, that's true. I am not a professional in the comic book industry. Yet. But I am absolutely obsessed with comics and storytelling and the whole entire 2D medium of the subject. I love just comics completely. As you can see behind me, this bookshelf right here is littered with comics, single issues ordered in alphabetical order by company. That took quite a while to do. And this black cabinet right here has tons of trade paperbacks, graphic novels, omnibuses. You should see the towers of comics I have next to my bedside. My wife hates it, but I don't, because I love reading comics. And I want to share my love of comics in a more in-depth way via this series. But I do make my own comics, such as The Custodians, Agents of Cross, a love letter to the Silver Age era. Each issue of The Custodians, Agents of Cross is over 60 pages of pure comics, written, illustrated, colored, lettered, designed. Everything you see in these books was created entirely by myself. And this asks the all-important question, what if the only heroes that can save the world are an intelligent baboon, a girl who controls fire, the world's smartest man with the power of elasticity only in his right arm, and a four-armed werewolf? And this just follows their exploits. Like I said, it is a love letter to the 60s, Silver Age, and to all of comics in general. As you'll see as the series progresses to its 6th and final issue. This entire first issue, however, is posted in its entirety on my Patreon, patreon.com/Smokey'sVideos, where you can read the entire thing for only $2. Normally this book, I sell it for $15, which already is a far better deal than anything you're getting from Marvel or DC these days. But as little as $2 a month, you can get access to the entire issue. And I am serializing issue 2 as we speak. But that's not all, because I also have my sci-fi, zany, just crazy fun series, fun for the whole family, all-age comic, DESTRUCTO Boy. DESTRUCTO Boy follows this little robot guy right here as he lives on a giant space station in the far-flung future, and he battles crime, giant robots, giant monsters, and evil conquerors from space such as Grimlax the Astro Knight. Each of these issues just introduces as much zany sci-fi craziness as I could fit into these books. They're being serialized on my Patreon as I speak as well, and you can pick up all 5 issues on my Etsy shop, blaketwilde.etsy.com. Each purchase comes with a free head sketch of any character of your choosing, so check it out on my Patreon, on my Etsy. It really helps me out, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more content just like this. And as you can see from the title and what's in front of me on my desk right here, I am discussing the infamously famous X-Force #1. Look at that. Or is it this one? Or is it this one? Or is it this one? I have 4 copies of this book for some reason. I don't know why. Well, I do know why. It's because I went to conventions and they were either cheap enough to where I just bought them for the hell of it, or several of these, like 1 or 2 of them, I was gifted for free from a booth at a convention who was selling books who just wanted to get rid of them. Fortunately, no Deadpool trading card. Maybe that would have come with this one if I had actually gotten it in the bag. But this, of course, is the rebrand of New Mutants after Rob Liefeld took over the title. As you can see, very obviously, I'm sure everyone is very familiar with this book. Maybe not so much having actually read it, what little you can read of it. More so just looking at the neat pictures and bright colors. And I want to say that I never really had a problem with Rob Liefeld's art. Maybe that's because I got into comics when I was like a teenager. So I just had no idea of the history of any comics or anything like that. But when I first started getting into them and like wanting to make my own books and looking at different artists, Rob Liefeld, Todd McFarlane, Frank Miller, post Dark Knight Strikes Again, those all caught my fancy. I just really dug the expression of it and just the pure veracity that was occurring in these images. They're just so full of life and energy and just action packed, and that's pretty much what people fell in love with in the late 80s, early 90s. That's why Image Comics was so successful. It was something brand new. It felt like that generation's, Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, Steve Ditko, comics were being reinvented for an all new generation, and it worked really well for their pocketbooks. But yeah, needless to say, I never had a real big issue with Rob Liefeld's art. Of course, there are things that are just wrong with it from a, anatomical standpoint, but I really dug the stylization of it and the fact that things don't look right. I really dig that. But let's get right into this with X-Force #1 right here. And we, of course, it's the era of trading cards. So who the hell are these characters even supposed to be? Well, that's just a dude. That can be anybody. Reed Richards, maybe, because that looks like it's Doctor Doom's hand. That's clearly Spider-Man. This lizard abomination, and then I don't know what the fuck this is. It looks like Sasquatch. What a weird ad. Force to be reckoned with. This is just a total reinvention of a brand new series called X-Force. They ditched the New Mutants. It wasn't working until Rob came on and reinvigorated it with his just utter insanity, as we see here. Rob Liefeld, who in the credits is listed as everything but Fabian Nicieza on words, Chris Eolopoulos on letters, Brad Venkata, color art, Bob Harris, baggy eyes, Tom DeFalco, baggy boss. So, they're having fun with it. But this, just like I was saying, this is what caught the attention of the comic book world in the 90s. Just look at this double page splash. If there was a splash page right here, it would have just been a Kirby comic with a classic splash page followed by a double page splash, and then we lead into the actual comics. Oh, look, Battletoads. But, Fabian Nicieza has to... they're working Marvel Method. If you're unfamiliar what Marvel Method is, it's the classic reason why Stan Lee is such a heated character in the comic community and comic history. You see, the Marvel Method was essentially the writer or editor or whoever would come up, Stan Lee, for instance. Stan Lee would come up with the general idea of what was going to happen in like a Fantastic Four book. Okay, Jack, this issue, their FF is going to face off against Mole Man and Tyrannodon. Something along those lines. A very brief idea, maybe specific ideas he wants to get in there, but more or less a jumping off point for the artist, Jack Kirby, Steve Ditko, John Romita, anybody like that. And the artist would then go away and create the entire story panel by panel, page by page, based on that general idea of what the issue was going to be about. Stan Lee would come back after the artwork had been done and inked and everything, and he would add his Stan Lee-isms to it, of varying degrees of verbosity and just... There's a reason why people don't like old comics, Silver Age comics. They say that it's, too verbose, too kiddie. It explains too much, which is partly due to the fact that comics were, generally made for kids at that time. So they wanted to ensure that the child reading could understand it. But that is a big thing that you would see, is a lot of word bubbles covering up specific pieces of artwork occasionally. But here's the fun thing. I just go on a little tirade here. Here's the fun thing about reading those old comics, because the Silver Age is my favorite era of books. That is the 60s to early 70s. Late 50s to early 70s. You don't have to read all those captions. If you read in an X-Men book and Cyclops is going off for the third time about how his goddamn powers work, and the captions are also reminding you of how his goddamn powers work, you don't have to read that. Even, like, you don't even need to take a quick glance at it to realize that it's not pertinent information, because it does slow down the story. It does create this kind of stopping and starting for information that you already know. And that evolved into what we're looking at today, which is comics went from having too many words to, at this point where I'm talking about X-Force, it's too little words. A big issue with once Image started is that a lot of the storytelling would be done in the back matter. It would be done in interviews about the comics themselves. Youngblood, for example. What is Youngblood about? Most people would say it's like an X-Force team of badass characters who fight villains. It's actually about a superhero team that is created by, like, big business, almost a Monkees situation. The Monkees band, if you're unaware, was a processed band. Like, they didn't come naturally together like the Beatles did. Youngblood was meant to be this, like, celebrity team of superheroes that this conglomerate got together, and that just is not present in those books. But anyway, going back to the comic that I'm talking about, I'm getting a little ahead of myself with the history here. Just a beautiful splash page. I love the colors. Brad Venkata doing the colors on here. Just excellent job. I don't know if Rob did the like the color guides. I know he does that for a couple of his projects I'm familiar with. There's a video of him on YouTube from about 15 years ago working on the Heroes Reborn sequel, whatever that was called, where he's going over, like, printouts of his own pages and coloring them to see how it's going to look. So I don't know if he did this and that's what this is based off of, but I adore this just utter day glow, super bright neon poppy color scheme that is exhibited in this comic. X-Force. Stan Lee presents X-Force. Children of the Atom, born as mutants with fantastic powers and abilities, bound together as soldiers fighting a dirty war for the survival of their species. That is a great caption. That's a great description of what X-Force is. Again, storytelling is done in the words rather than what we do see. It's mostly just a bunch of fights. But we have Cannonball, Domino, Cable, who I feel like that could have been moved because it kind of just goes straight to this little dude right here. Warpath, Feral, Boom Boom, and Shatterstar. Of course, the only two surviving characters, not that any of them died, but the ones that continued on from the New Mutants were, of course, Cannonball and Boom Boom. But this is just such a fun scene. So much energy just in this page. Who cares if perspective doesn't line up or if it doesn't look anatomically correct? That's a big issue that I have with modern comics. Modern comic fans, really, is that if it doesn't look anatomically correct, if it doesn't look photorealistic, then to a lot of people, that just means that it's not good, that it's bad art. But these are comics. It's expression through art. Why would you want this escapist fantasy, this modern mythology to resemble anything close to real life when I can look around me and see real life every waking moment? But when I look into these pocket universes, I see all kinds of different variations of what realities look like. Rob Liefeld's reality is wholly different from Mike Allred's reality. Jack Kirby's reality looks completely different from Alex Ross. There we go. That's somebody who's photorealistic, but still gets a cartoonish dynamicism to his artwork. But that is just, that's a, another thing people complain about with Rob Liefeld. I feel like this episode of Cover to Cover Comics might be me defending Rob Liefeld's work, because again, I do really enjoy it. But again, we just, like, what is happening? Where are they? Who knows? It's clearly an underground facility in Antarctica, because the story does tell us that on June 4th, 7 silent figures stand motionless, brooding alone with their thoughts. Just no one talking to each other. Everybody's brooding. Oh man, it's been a while since I've read this. That one really got me. But anyway, moving on. Just playing with the panels. This is almost forming an X. Right here you can see just crazy layouts throughout this whole book. That's another thing that I believe doesn't get talked about enough with Rob Liefeld's comics, are when he got really creative and visceral with the actual panel layouts of the page layouts, doing something different with it. Like this is a page, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 whole panels to showcase the 7 characters and them just being cool in combat. You can have just a traditional 5-page panel layout. Or you can do this. Of course it looks like an H, but it also, again, looks like an X. And it's just something different. It stands out. And again, here we get just this boom! Like you feel the power. Look at his thighs! My god, they're triple the size of this gun that he has. It's just so just fantastic. I really do dig it. I always liked the little panels that they have down here of just quick setups to action is usually what these little bottom panels were. They're just really fun. This horrible team of knockoff mutants show up. Forearm, Kamikaze, Wildside, and Reaper. Hey, look, it's Feral. She's literally right there. She has the exact same curls in her hair as well as Feral does. And again, like I was saying, panel layouts, just crazy. Close up, pull back, close up, super close up, pan back, and then just comes all the way back to where Shatterstar slices off this dude's hand of ambiguous origin, although it is his right hand or his left hand, and that does look more like a thumb, like if it was coming at you like this. Like, I think that makes sense. I see this brought up all the time whenever this issue is discussed. Like, oh, well, it looks like which hand is it? It's clearly the left. The thumb right here is thicker than the other fingers. But this guy gets his fucking hand cut off. You see the stump right here? Just comics are going crazy. You wouldn't have seen this 2-3 years ago at this point. Playing with the coloring of the word balloons themselves to just really emphasize how just ferocious these scenes are. Of course, we get a cool little X-Force shirt layout. And of course, we established already how big Cable is compared to everybody. Look at how big Forearm is to Cable. And Cable calls over Warpath. And oh my god, just what a page turn. Just from here, we get the establishing shot of Warpath running like a gorilla or something with his arms above his head. Kapow! You know, you can feel just the shockwaves of his giant fist driving into Forearm. And this almost Underground Comics-esque just rounded layout, or rounded floor. It's super cartoony, but it just works so well. And the colors, it looks like they're fighting in a Twizzler. But I love it. It's going to get even crazier in a couple pages. Like this! Just what I was expecting. Who should be watching the ferocious battle but Strife? Dun, dun, dun. And something interesting is that he's standing on the panel, which I can only assume is meant to translate to the fact that he is resting a foot on this rail right here. I love this hellish VHS computer screen, just all of these just crazy dayglow neon hell nightmare colors just being conveyed here. Thumbelina, yeah, okay. But this panel of Strife, this image, it looks so cool. It really does beautifully stand out against the color choices of just this shade of orange and then all these other colors that we have going on. He stands alone, silver clad armor. Down here we get a fun little sequence of Strife ordering a self-destruct sequence to activate, and just there's something about the way that they're both walking which makes them look like Calvin and Hobbes, you know, when they're balancing over the the brook on that fallen tree. Like, they both have their arms out like they're balancing themselves. It's a silly little image. But the self-destruct has been activated, and so we're going to be getting that. Let's see. Where does it show up? Does it show up there? Yeah, there it is. It doesn't help that it changes, so, like, you know, it has that pure magenta and red. They should have definitely stuck with that to convey, you know, so you can easily see where the countdown is. Feral attacks Wilde's side, and I always love when they add this little extra bit to the word balloons like that. It really emphasizes the fact that she does not sound like a regular person. You know, it's a very animalistic. It conveys a sense of animalistic nature to her. And then, oh my god, just like prying her mouth open like the King Kong does to that T-Rex and Kong. And seemingly she snaps her neck or jaw. Or tongue or something. Oh yeah, she says, oh, well, for some reason I thought this was a woman, probably because it looks exactly like Feral. But Wilde's side is, in fact, a man. And she seemingly brutalizes him enough to where he's not going to, you know, cause an issue anymore. Introduced to a couple more characters. This just creep named Zero, who creates these teleportation portals, which I really like how that's done. It emanates this sickly green glow, and it kind of evokes the idea of the boom tube of Jack Kirby's New Gods, with that sort of temporal suction that's happening. Something that happens a lot in this book is the playing with the word balloons, which I really enjoy. And then again, up here is the timer, so it has been, you know, there's been showing how much time has passed between each of these panels, which is always a nice thing to do. Yeah, so she does cut out his tongue. I love this. I love phonetic spelling in comics when someone's hurt or somebody's scared. Alan Moore did it a lot. They're doing it here. Thorough. Good, thank you. It's just so well done. That's such a great idea. I wish people would use it more often. Strife shows up. We get this fantastic panel of Cable just unloading with his gun. I don't know what these lines are supposed to be. At first, I thought they were supposed to be like a sound effect, but that's not, because poof, poof, poof. That, it looks ridiculous, but making the sound, it shows how heavy of a gun it is that he's firing. But yeah, the little vertical bars in the back, it's just you know, continuing to just show that they are still in this facility, and it really works. It wouldn't have worked as well if it wasn't this pink into magenta that just draws the eye forward into Cable, and definitely wouldn't have worked as well if it was just pure white. They escape, and Cable has to let us know he got away. Stab his eyes! He got away again! I gotta start saying that whenever something bad happens or whenever I'm annoyed. Stab his eyes! But someone didn't escape, and that was Forearm. And then Domino and Boom Boom rock up. And the you know, they failed their mission. They don't really have anything else to do here, I guess. Well, it is going to self-destruct. Um, we don't know how much time is left, but I imagine, yeah, there you go. It happens pretty quickly. And I always loved this sci-fi idea for Cable's teleportation, which is called Body Slide. Body Slide by 6. That's just, I love that. That's such a neat little one-off kind of idea. Like, I want him to teleport, to have this special device that allows him to teleport. He's from the future. Come up with some crazy name for it. And they all vroom, swoosh away to the ship where Cable orders it to take off just via voice commands. And then just excellent coloring here. I really dig the just this strange pink glow that occurs inside of this ship for some reason. And just, you know, playing with that, it works really well, I feel. It creates a sense of change between, you know, and it also just, it's, I don't know how much this is influenced by, like, actual military craft, or at least film military craft, but I'm thinking, like, World War II paratrooper scenes. There would be that red light that means go, or, like, or the red light changes while they're in the ship, or in the aircraft. Helicopters, military helicopters, I think have a similar sort of situation going on there. So that it really emphasizes the fact that they are a militaristic, paramilitary force when compared to the traditional Blackbird. That's a great, it's a great contrast. Just the ship and the inside, it's a great contrast to the X-Men's classic Blackbird. Manhattan, June 5th. 8:34 a.m. All 7 buildings that make up Manhattan. And the majestic penthouse apartment of a very mysterious man named Gideon. Gideon, character that had nothing going for him aside from his giant ponytail and weird gold arms that seemingly were forgotten to be drawn. I can't remember what Gideon's deal is, if those are cybernetic arms or what. But as revealed in one of the latter issues of New Mutants, is that Sunspot left the team and went to join Gideon. Interesting little bit is that the colorist forgot to color in the shakang sound effect of Sunspot fighting the robot. I really like this effect for Sunspot. It just looks really cool. It's a neat idea of just the energy glowing around him, and the fact that he is so just hot and bright that his entire body becomes a silhouette. That's really neat. That's something you'll notice, at least on old cameras, cell phone cameras, is that if you aimed it at the sun, it would just kind of become a black spot. So he literally is, you know, a sunspot, and just neat. Just a neat gimmick. But anyway, they're doing their shit. Who cares? And then, what the fuck is this? Egyptian, like, animal-headed people, whatever they're called, wielding assault rifles, and they have, like, bandoliers of bullets? What the fuck is this? What is that book? How do I get my hands on that? Anyway, back at Antarctica, the Antarctic, what looks like, is that an octopus? Or, oh, it's a fire. The classic Antarctic emergency services arrive, along with Commander George Washington Bridge, or GW Bridge. He is met up by this, snow-clad commander, who informs him that this was a Mutant Liberation Front base, the MLF, led by Strife, of course. Another playing with the colors. Since it's all white to begin with, they're in Antarctica. Try and make the word balloons stand out, since they are going to be against a white background. So have them be this. Add like 10-15% yellow to the word balloons of GW Bridge. He tells this man to contact Fury, and tell him that everything's under control. He's got it. Nothing to worry about. All clear. Cable and his little army of toy soldiers have to be brought down. So, you know, classic sort of government agent after our heroes. Kind of similar. I think that's what The Rock was. I think that's like The Rock's character in the Fast and the Furious films, right? Like, at least when he's first introduced, he's very George G.W. Bridge-esque in this way that he's just one step behind our characters and he's trying to stop them until, like G.W. Bridge, he joins, like, their side. He becomes a buddy. At the Adirondack Mountains in upstate New York, because you still got to keep it in New York. It's just a little further north in Westchester, I think. I don't fucking know. I get the idea, I think, that Rob was going for, but it just doesn't work out that well. So what I believe is happening is we established down here, it's the mountain. It's this one mountain right here in this mountain range. That's the focus. That's where this hidden base is. This is the exterior, and I think that this was meant to convey a sort of Jack Kirby-esque classic cutaway through a building. But the fact that it's clearly just panels, like, it doesn't work. It doesn't convey that level of unique layout as it could have. Like, you really could have gotten detailed with it, or at least, you know, as detailed as Rob Liefeld would like to be, by having it be clearer that this is a base. Like, halfway through, like, this works a bit. This makes sense if you want to just do that classic Kirby cutaway, because that's kind of in scale, and you could have built up around this and just led the eye downward, and then it turns into actual comic panels. But instead, it's just these establishing shots throughout the base of people talking. We get Cable's little tete-a-tete with Cannonball about his kind of backstory. He knew this kid named Tyler who was like a son to him, a part of his soul, but not his body. We worked together much like I do with X-Force now. After a year or so, we drifted apart. He hooked up with Strife in the MLF. Then what happened? He died during a terrorist operation. It was a position he was placed in by Strife. I have several reasons for wanting to see that armored maggot dead. Tyler's death is only one of them. You never told me any of this. You never asked. So, you know, a little more we're learning about Cable in these overly melodramatic panels and illustrations. Interesting that this Tyler character, who I don't think ever really comes up, unless he does, I don't remember. I don't think he... interesting that he teams up with Cable and then leaves to also team up with Cable, because if you're unaware, Strife is a evil clone. But anyway, Domino shows up. Domino, if I remember correctly, this is not Domino. This is, what is her name? It's Deadpool's wife in the Deadpool films, Vanessa Carlyle. I can't remember what her like, super name is, but she can shapeshift. She shows up. They're discussing things. We get to see a little more extension of Cable's powers. Just fun ideas. Just Cable can pretty much do anything. He's the classic kids character of, yeah, now my character can do this, now he can do that, now he can do this, now he can do that. And we also reveal that this is yet another secret that Cable has. He's a box full of secrets, this man, because he hasn't told anybody else that he has this telekinesis. Ooh. Who else has telekinesis? I wonder, what other X-Men character could possibly have telekinesis, and coincidentally enough, also has at least one glowing eyeball? You know, we're just setting up, oh, there's a lot more to Cable than people can believe, so keep reading, and maybe you'll also learn all about Cable, and his pupilless, irisless eyes. And then the most exciting ending is Bridge returning to base. Seemingly he's in this helicopter, but then later it changes to... Because, what the fuck? This is way too big, unless this is just a giant helicopter. Anyway, he gets in contact with Nick Fury. Nick Fury says that he just doesn't want to deal with the mutant thing, so he's... and the whole cable situation, so Bridge is handling that. And, of course, classic Rob Liefeld full-body figure right here with strange proportions. Patch me through on the security access line to General Clark in Canadian military. I want Department K brought in on this. It's time to call in Weapon X! Boom! And credits. To be continued. And then a little neat thing right here are just a little... again, like I was saying before in the episode, all the story and backstory and all this is really being told through the back matter. Although this is a bit more acceptable because it's just ancillary information about these characters we're fairly familiar with. We got Deadpool, Feral, Shatterstar, and GW Bridge in the Cable Guide, which is written just like it's Cable's personal journal or something, rather than an actual like militaristic guide that he is making. But it's just fun little back matter stuff. And then just the oddest name for this letter column, which is called Cablegrams. Like, really? That's all you could come up with? And hey, look at this. Exciting new issue. X-Men #1 is coming. Look for it this August, says Beast. Oh my stars and garters. Nothing of note in here in these notes, letters sent to the editor. Usually you can find something, but this is... look at this! This, from what my left finger to my right finger, that is one letter that was sent in by Chris Gage in 1991. Just insane lengths. This one right here from just the craziest nickname this guy gives himself. Mike the Mite Paris Ite. What the fuck? Does that guy, like, hang out under bridges and give riddles to people? But yeah, that was X-Force #1. A surprisingly fun, colorful story. If you just read it at a base level, you're really not getting much. But if you go into it, kind of like I did, I suppose, and just look for that depth, then it is there. And it is still a fun story that can be enjoyed. As always, let me know what you thought in the comments below. Let me know if you have any suggestions for comics I should cover in the comments below. Check out my other series, What Is, and my comic podcast, Comic Shtick. And if you're into video games, I am doing a playthrough of both the recently released Hellboy Way of Word video game and Fallout 3. Of course, follow me on Instagram at @NotBlakeWilde and my Patreon, patreon.com/Smokey'sVideos, and Etsy shop, BlakeTWilde.etsy.com. And like and subscribe for more content just like this. And I will see you next time when I go cover to cover. Bye!